Hi, my name is Jordan. I am the author and founder of Love Like Flannel. First, let me say thank you so much for taking the time to engage with what I do on Love Like Flannel, whether that's reading the articles I post or the poetry I write or the spoken words that I do. It means the world to me that you take the time out of your day to engage Love Like Flannel and share that with other people. The video that I'm doing today is actually going hand in hand with part one of a three-part treatise that I wrote called The Death of Racism. I hate racism. I think it's an evil. I think it needs to die. It needs to disappear. It's been a problem in our world, specifically in my experience here in the United States, for far too long. And I think it's high time it's gone. And I think it's possible to see that happen in our future. Is it big? Absolutely. Is it very multifaceted with a lot of different things that need to change, that need to evolve? Absolutely. It's not going to disappear overnight, but I believe that fighting towards the death of racism is a worthy fight and something that we need to take up. And in part one, I talked about how I believe that step one in seeing the death of racism is helping people see through the eyes of a toddler, in the sense that we start viewing one another with a purer set of eyes. I used my two sons as an example in how they relate to one another. My oldest, who's 5, being black, and my youngest, who's 2, being white. Just seeing how they love each other, they interact, they share each other's adventures, and how they fight for one another and advocate for one another with my wife and I. And the fact is that, do they recognize their skin color is different? Absolutely. We're in the process of walking my oldest through some of the dynamics and the questions he has at this point about why his skin is black and why my wife and I, and our youngest, is white. And so we're beginning to walk through some of the dynamics of race, but also the adoption with him. So that's a journey in and of itself. But even though they recognize that their skin color is different, they treat each other just like every other brother-sibling combo out there. It does not diminish their love for one another, how they celebrate one another. And my wife and I are really trying to raise them right now in a way that the ideals that we share with them, help them experience, will hopefully help them grow up with racism just being a foreign concept or idea to them when they're confronted with it, because of what they experience in our home. And if you have not yet read part one, I would encourage you to check that out, because what I say here might make a little bit more sense after doing so. But I believe that if we really want to see the death of racism, it's very likely that the best place to start with that is with our kids. And so if we want to see a better future, a future where racism is gone, I think it largely rests on those of us that are parents right now to help our kids to understand the evils behind prejudice, the evils behind racism, and to help our kids do life in a different way. I think it's possible for older people that have been raised in more of a prejudicial or racist ideologies to change. I think it takes work to do that. The person obviously has to be willing to go there. But I think it's possible. I think what is more possible is that we can raise the generations after us to hate racism themselves, so that as they age, they simply just don't operate that way. And so some of the things that my wife and I are doing, with our boys are we are trying to help them see that what makes somebody beautiful, what makes somebody valuable, and somebody to love and to cherish and to want to have in our life does not depend on the differences in our skin or cultural backgrounds. That the differences that make us up are more than just what we see with our eyes, and that every difference is something to be validated through how we listen, through how we love, and through how we interact with other people in a way that shows them that regardless of what they look like or their cultural background, that they are a valuable person to have in our life, because we are all in the middle of this thing called life trying to do it together, and we're better with each other than we could ever be without one another. And in our home, our boys now are hearing things that allow them to see that. They know the love that my wife and I have for them. They know that even though they're different, we love all of their differences equally. We celebrate who they are, who they're becoming, the things they like, the things they don't like. And my hope is that as they grow up, they understand that what they experience in our home can be freely given to everybody else outside of our home, in our communities, that our home will actually always be a safe place to invite their friends, regardless of their race, regardless of their socioeconomic status, that this will be a safe place they can bring their friends, and that their friends will find love and support here within the walls of our home, and that they can be advocates for others outside of the home. I know that challenges are going to arise. I know that because of the dynamics of prejudice and racism out there, that the high likelihood that my boys will encounter that and those ideals in very ugly ways is very real. Particularly my oldest son, that's something that concerns me every single day of my life. The thought that anybody would mistreat him or levy judgments on him just because of his skin tone is something that makes me sick, and is one reason why I'm so passionate about seeing a future where racist and prejudicial ideas are just gone. I hope that my boys as brothers will always be each other's biggest advocates, defenders. Obviously my wife and I are always going to be there for them, but as they get older and go to school, I hope they're there for one another. But I also hope that as they grow, what they experience in our home will help them realize that whenever they're confronted with a racist idea that it's just so foreign to them that their minds can't grasp how anybody could treat somebody the way that racism forces people to treat one another. And I want that to be such a foreign concept that they not only hate it themselves, but they're willing to fight against it. They're willing to advocate for other people or other friends that they see being mistreated. That's something my wife and I will always support in them when they stand up for somebody else. And I think that as a culture, those of us that are parents now raising kids, if we can help them experience a racist-free, prejudice-free environment in our own homes, and that we can empower them to then take that out into their school and in their community and operate in a way towards other people that shows them love, that shows them value, that honors them, that celebrates people for how they're different, and lets people know that we are more amazing together and using the differences about us to make everyone around us better, the communities around us stronger, that is better than hate and division, that we could really see a future where racism dies. That's what we're trying to accomplish in our home with our boys. And that's what I think is step one to moving towards a better future, is really raising the generations after us to hate racism. I hope it happens. I'm fighting for it to happen. And this kind of goes into part 2 of my treatise, where I talk about dignity in diversity. I'm hoping to share another video with that part as well when I release that. But thank you so much for taking the time to not only check out Love Like Flannel, not only read part 1 of The Death of Racism, but also check out this video. And I just want to encourage you, if you have any thoughts, stories, or if you just are interested in connecting and carrying on a conversation, I really do think that we are better together than we could ever be separate. And part of my goal with Love Like Flannel is to really create a conversation, to get the questions being asked, and then to get the conversations being engaged in. And so my hope is that as we share things, or even as you hear things, whether it's connecting with myself, which you can do by using the contact page on Love Like Flannel, or whether it's having conversations with those in your spheres of influence, that these conversations start to happen, that we start to value and cherish where people are at, and we work together towards a better future. So if you would have any interest in contacting me directly, please use that page. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to keep the conversation going. But thank you so much again for checking out Love Like Flannel, and just stay posted for new up-and-coming content. And thank you again for being a part of engaging with the content that I share here and what I'm trying to do, and of course for checking out The Death of Racism in this video. Thank you so much. We'll see you.